Hey everyone, I'm Kerlunkus and welcome back to another episode of Haunted Gaming Revisited. Today I'm going to be taking a look at an old creepypasta known as The Game That Listens. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with this creepypasta, The Game That Listens. The story starts with me. I purchased a game called Mario Kart Super Circuit. Well, as you can tell, this game is a Mario game, the plumber from the Mushroom Kingdom who has to save the princess all the time. I got the game from GameStation quite a while ago. The checkout man handed me the game and I paid very little as it is an old pre-owned game. At the time, I asked if the game was faulty and he replied with, "Oh right, the game is in 100% working order." So I bought the game, and then he stopped me and said that the woman who sent the game back said she loved this game but had to leave it as it creeped her out, and she thought she was going insane. When she left the game, the clerk said, "It also says TGTL on the back." I asked what that meant, and he said that he was never told, and that I will never know. So I walked home and realized that the clerk said that the game nearly made the woman insane, but I still played it. The game started as normal, played really well, and other than the writing on the back, it was in good condition. So I was really happy I could play the game and not worry. One time something happened as I was playing the game. I played on Bowser's Castle 1 and was doing extremely well, so I started to mock the CPU, saying that they suck at the game and such. As I was just a boy, my imagination was at its wildest, but when mocking the game, I heard a little static, and then heard an unexplainable noise and then the game froze, which threw me off a little. But as a kid, I thought my imagination was getting the better of me, so I kept playing. When I started the game again, it still played normally, and I wondered what went wrong. When I processed it with my young mind, I thought the game was in a worse condition than I initially thought, or it was just coincidence. But even my assumptions were wrong. I didn't play the game until about a week later. Forgetting about the coincidence, I carried on with the game, and as I said, it played normally until I shouted at the game because I lost a race I really needed to win. And then the game did the same as last time, went all to static, and then froze. But seeing this was not coincidence, I turned it off and then turned it back on straight away. Doing this is what I regret, because as soon as I turned it on, the game did something odd. It showed a white screen, then text and a voice came out of my Game Boy. The text was black, mostly expected. The voice coming out of the speakers sounded like a calm woman. She said, "Hi." I was extremely scared, so I did not speak. The screen flashed red, and her calm voice was broken into a horrible croaky voice which sounded like she'd seen a child get murdered. "Answer me," she shouted. So I said, "Hi." Her voice then rumbled back into a calm voice, and I talked to her extremely confused. At the time I was playing the game, I was on my own, and I was too scared to move from where I was. After a while, we talked for a bit, and said that her name was Sandra, but called herself Tugtile when in her demonic voice. When I got comfortable, she told me some things, but gave extremely little information. As I got used to talking to her, she suddenly stopped talking, and all I could hear was ripping and tearing, no visual content. Suddenly the game's main screen showed Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad all sleeping, or dead, and the game blacked out. I was of course watching without any movement. I was frightened. It then faded back to the white screen, and I said after a few minutes, "Hello?" There was no answer. I decided to say hello again, and then the game made a clicking noise, and then showed Mario's head twisting. Every time I said a word, Mario's actions differed. I said Sandra, and Mario closed his eyes. I said hello again, and then Mario opened them. I then said hello for the final time, and Mario smiled demonically, his head spinning. This continued for a long time, and then he started laughing maniacally. I waited for a few more minutes, but nothing but the sound of the static getting louder was heard. I turned off the Game Boy. As I sat frozen in place, thinking, staring into the blackness of the screen, I managed to turn on the Game Boy another time. It started normally. The game was back to normal, and has been fine since this moment in history. It still makes me freeze when I think about it, but luckily, it has never happened again. What happened after that day? I had a few reoccurring nightmares every now and then, but that only happened for a week or two, and then the nightmares left my system. I also did not play the game after testing one track for about 3 months. My memory of what I talked about to Sandra is quite weak. I think I got 6 questions, but only remember 3. This is because I was scared by what happened at the end of my unbearable journey. Question number 1. Who are you? My name, Sandra. Sandra, what does TGTL stand for? The game that listens. Are you a real person, Sandra? Of course, you are speaking to me right now. I may not be here with you, but we are still talking. This is all I remember, so I am very sorry, but please be careful with what you buy. You never know what could happen. Alright, so I'm just going to do this one completely unscripted. Most of the time whenever I do my analysis phases I always script them, but I kind of feel like doing this one just free-handed because I remember this creepypasta quite well. It was one of the many like creepypastas I've heard originally by Sog growing up. I'd say the very first one would be like Conker's Worst Fur Day, but this one also holds up as a very nostalgic episode. Mostly because I really like Mario Kart, you know, and you know, Mario Kart, creepy stuff, it's just like, I don't know, all the stuff from my childhood, it just intertwined in one little thing, and it made a pretty nice creepypasta. But looking at it now, it's a little bit tough to read, like, the grammar's kind of shitty. I'm pretty sure that's an obvious get-go, because most creepypastas have issues with grammar all the time. And aside from that, the story does seem a little contrived. I kind of wish we had more explanation behind Sandra, who she really was, and hell, why the game even listens. And why Mario Kart of all games too. I'm really curious as to why it was, why it had to be Mario Kart. Anyways, aside from all that, the creepypasta, it built up decently. It's not really like the greatest creepypasta. It was a little bit short, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's still mildly entertaining, pretty fun to imagine, and it could be like a freaky ROM hack almost. Like, imagine seeing something like this on an actual Mario Kart Super Circuit cartridge. Like, one day you're just playing it and then randomly that shit happens and then it never happens again. Like, it could totally be a ROM hack or something, because the Game Boy Advance was at least capable of making voices. The audio quality wasn't the best, but it could be done. Anyways, with all that being said, this was another episode of Haunted Game Revisited. Quite a decent creepypasta, I'd say. Maybe like a 5 out of 10 or something. I don't really know. What would you rate this creepypasta? What would you change to make it better? Please let me know in the comments below. This has been another episode, and if you like what you saw, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is me, Kerlunkus, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out.